health workers. Lebanese anti-government protesters have been on the streets of Beirut again to demand political reform, but demonstrators stayed in their cars to respect social distancing, as Alan Johnston reports.
6 months ago, protesters began demanding sweeping reform of Lebanon's political system, but their demonstrations began losing momentum and then stopped altogether when a coronavirus lockdown was imposed. Today, the protesters were back, but conscious of the threat of the virus, they didn't gather together in the streets and squares in the way they used to. They kept their distance and stayed in their cars, waving flags and honking their horns as the convoy made its way through Beirut.
World News from the BBC. US Democrats have condemned Donald Trump's announcement on Twitter that he will suspend all immigration into the country because of the pandemic. One congressman, Joaquin Castro, accused the president of attempting to distract attention from his failure to stop the spread of the virus. Mr. Trump said the move was needed to protect American jobs. Singapore has extended its partial lockdown until June the 1st, as the total number of coronavirus cases reaches more than 9,000. The authorities will be tightening restrictions, with more workplaces closing and those exercising outside being asked to do so alone. The Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said the measures were necessary to control the spread of the virus.
Many will be disappointed by the extension of the circuit breaker, especially our businesses and workers who are hurting greatly. But I hope you understand that this short-term pain is to stamp out the virus, protect the health and safety of our loved ones, and allow us to revive our economy.
British members of Parliament have been debating plans for business at Westminster to be conducted in part by video link. The proposals have been put forward to comply with social distancing rules introduced by the government to combat the spread of the coronavirus. If they're approved, attendance in the House of Commons would be limited to 50, with 120 other MPs taking part online. The Dutch Supreme Court has ruled that doctors cannot be prosecuted for ending the lives of severe dementia patients who've made a living will expressing a wish to die. The court said the doctor was not obliged to confirm that desire at the time of euthanasia. The ruling clarifies the acquittal last year of a doctor for ending the life of a 74-year-old Alzheimer's sufferer who'd made and renewed such a will. He put sedatives in her coffee without her knowledge and got her family to restrain her while he administered a lethal injection. And that's the latest BBC News.
The streets are empty.
Difficult time from Cameroon.
The Ato Foundation has put together a program to get soap, sanitizers and basic food items to 50,000 households in the cities of Douala, Boya, Yaoundé and Bafoussam. May the Lord bless him. May he move forward and have even more. He is our son. We say thanks to him because he's thinking of us. 50,000 face masks are also to be distributed, particularly aimed at the country's taxi driving community.
It's a very nice gesture from the former Barcelona, Inter Milan and Chelsea striker. The Blues club is right at the heart of the news despite the forced break due to coronavirus. And if you talk about it, it's above all about the future of one of his stars, the Brazilian William, who for the first few weeks has been putting pressure on the London club for a possible extension of his contract, which should end this summer. For the time being, nothing has changed and the player is not ruling out any options. Let's go to Latin America, whose confederation, like all the others in the world, has had to suspend its competitions. But everything should start up again in September. At least that is what CONMEBOL is hoping for. The 2022 World Cup qualifiers will begin from 4 to 8 September in accordance with FIFA's guidelines. The first 2 days of the South American zone were originally scheduled for March, but the South American football body had asked FIFA to postpone them until September. And with this, we bring this week's broadcast to a close, but the news continues on Africa News and africanews.com. We'll leave you with these images in homage to the health workers, the heroes who are fighting to save millions of lives in difficult times of COVID-19. Have a great week. Goodbye now.
In Madagascar, President Andry Rajoelina launches what he believes is a plant-based cure for COVID-19.
Flash flood leave thousands displaced in Kenya and at least 4 dead after heavy rains flood parts of the country.
Madagascan President Andry Rajoelina has officially he believes can prevent and cure patients suffering from COVID-19. Developed by the Malagasy Institute of Applied Research and branded COVID Organics, President Rajoelina presented the so-called remedy to the press on Monday, a measure, a plant cultivated on the Big Island to fight against malaria.
All trials and tests have been conducted, and its effectiveness in reducing the elimination of symptoms has been proven for the treatment of patients with COVID-19 in Madagascar.
President Rajoelina said Monday that it had cured 2 COVID-19 cases. A presidential decree said COVID Organics is mandatory for school children returning to school on Wednesday.
So today I think that I am convinced, in fact, that history will prove us right. But today there are already 2 cases that have been cured with the COVID Organics, but we'll actually see what happens next. COVID Organics will be used in prophylaxis, that is, preventive measure. But clinical observations have shown a trend towards its effectiveness in curative measures as well. Other clinical studies are currently underway.
Rajaulina's claims come amid scientific opinion that no cure for COVID-19 exists and that any experimental formula should be rigorously tested to see if it is safe and effective.
Amidst global pandemic, flash floods have left thousands displaced in Kenya and at least 4 dead after heavy rains flooded parts of the country. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya said 23 people were also missing. It was just clouds and it did not look like heavy rainfall. But when it started, we all fled. It swept very many people away. I even slept in the forest. You see, I lost all my clothes and I'm dressed in just this clothes. Local volunteers and rescue workers continued to search for the dead and missing on Sunday and Monday morning, as well as lifting out livestock stuck deep in the mud. 23 people cannot be traced. Those are the ones we are searching for. Their families have come forward to report that they are missing, have been taken to the hospital for treatment. A local boarding school in the area was among the buildings totally destroyed. Usually home to hundreds of children, the school was empty, having been closed earlier this month because of the coronavirus outbreak. Mozambique on Sunday expelled one of Brazil's most wanted criminals, an alleged drug lord who has been on the run for 2 decades. Gilberto dos Santos was sent home on a Brazilian Air Force plane which left Maputo at night with dozens of police officers on board, the authorities said. Dos Santos was arrested on Monday in an international sting operation that included agents from Brazil, Mozambique and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. The Mozambican authority decided on Friday to expel him for allegedly entering the country illegally, but kept the decision secret until he had left. He is an alleged leader of the First Capital Command (PCC), considered to be Brazil's top criminal gang wielding control over cocaine supply routes from Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia.
Angola, Cape Verde and Mozambique are reinforcing institutional quarantine, while South Africa is even prohibiting the sale of alcohol and tobacco. All of a bid to stem the spread of the coronavirus pandemic in the continent. Consumers contest on social media. Maintaining lockdown as a measure against the spread of COVID-19 remains a challenge for the poorest and most densely populated countries.
De maneiras que as pessoas que fazem uso desse produto.
The Portuguese-speaking countries were pioneers in adopting early lockdown measures. The Angolan Health Minister Silvia Lutucota explains the degree of effectiveness in applying new measures. We have the two experiences. The first one, when we have the possibility to do it, is institutional quarantine, because people are isolated, controlled by professionals, transmission rate. The domestic quarantine for other suspected cases is good as long as they don't violate it. Angola has so far recorded 16 confirmed cases of people infected with COVID-19, including 2 deaths. South Africa and Egypt, with more than 3,000 active cases, continue to register their largest number of people infected by the COVID-19 in Africa.
Get all the international and African news on africanews.com.
Here outside Taipei City's Xingyin District Health Center, people take patiently to the queue, but they're not waiting to see a doctor, nurse or pharmacist. They're here to use a vending machine. Taipei has started selling face masks in automated machines like this. The method lightens the workload of pharmacists